Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening to Meaningless, where we look into. Fuck, a new intro. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening to Meaningless, a deep dive podcast into the internet's incorrectitude. I am your humble host, Nate, and I am joined today, once again, by my script supervisor, Captain.
Hi.
Hi, Captain. So, Captain Phillips, Adventures of Captain Tin. That works? Okay.
Yeah, that's better than where I was afraid you were going to go.
What'd you think?
Another famous captain.
Ahab?
No, that's not a good one either. But we'll go with Tintin.
Okay, all right. Adventures of Captain Tin. I have a meme for you to look at, and I would like you to explain to our listeners what it looks like and how it reads.
Okay. Well, the image is pretty easy to explain. Everyone's favorite underwater sponge, Mr. SpongeBob, is at work at the Krabby Patty. He's standing at the grill looking like he's about ready to flip a burger patty, and he's got a pretty sad look on his face. Like he's real sad about it. Above the picture, we have some text, and it says, "Me at my terrible minimum wage job, while some mom gets paid $76 a month posting her daughter."
All right. Yeah. So, talking about parents banking on the attention that their children get. And as we know, from JonBenet Ramsey to Paris Hilton, public attention always works out great for kids.
I already have a big question about this meme, though.
Yeah. Well, what's your question?
I don't think somebody did the math on that.
Well, you know something, I think that's kind of part of the I think it's somewhat satirical. I think it's sarcastic almost. Because you've got you get a lot of influencer parents, right? Who they basically make their money on their children getting attention online, right? Well, for every one of those, there's about a million. Well, that's a huge exaggeration, but there's probably, for every one of those, there's probably 100 parents who make, in the dozens of dollars each month, for their kid who kind of goes like semi-viral or whatever. But, and so I know that the memes are just based on the lure of using children for online virility, but I also want to talk a little bit about the broader scope of young people getting a bit too much attention in general. So I'm going to play a clip. It's of an actor named Nicholas Cantu, and he's young. He still has time to become a decent person, but I've seen no signs of a turnaround, so it's kind of hard for me to be generous to him. He used to make YouTube poop style memes. If you don't know what YouTube poop is, it's essentially just pure nonsense. And he voiced Gumball for a couple of years. He was replaced in the role of Gumball because his voice was changing due to puberty. Now, this means that he ended up in the limelight at a very young age, and we can see how this turned out. And considering that this is a clip of a self-aggrandizing Nicholas Cantu arguing with an Uber driver and another person, and being recorded by his friend, who allegedly just wanted to expose Cantu's homophobia and anti-Semitism, I imagine that things are going pretty well. And we have played this clip on the channel before, but I want to play it again because it's kind of one of my favorites, except for this time, somebody has animated it. And I'm not going to, for video watchers, I'm not going to include the animation in the video version of this episode because animators deserve viewership. They put a lot of work into animation. Tremendous amounts of hours go into just a minute or two of animation, and they absolutely deserve viewership. But I am going to play the audio of the clip because the audio is taken from an actual event. And I'm going to warn any listeners who haven't heard this clip before that while Cantu's voice has matured, Cantu himself very much has not.
Just for frame of reference, how old is Cantu? Is he an adult now?
He's 22 years old now.
Okay.
Yeah. He was, I think, I want to say, in this clip, I think he was 19. But he's a grown person. But right now, he's 22. He'll be 23 in September. The conversation in the clip is extremely unpleasant, but the person who did the animation did great on it.
That was a good little animation of it.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I love how when Dream is the guy who's in the back seat. Nicholas Cantu is one in the passenger seat. They have been portrayed as Gumball in the animation, appropriately because he voiced Gumball in the TV show. But I love how when Dream says, like, you're either extremely drunk right now, and he goes, I'm not drunk, and he's got the bottle in his hand. That's pretty good. That's a good video. But yeah, so anyway, Nicholas Cantu was funneled into show business at an early age. He did some advertisements, and there were hopes that he would one day be a star. And star he did. He was the voice of Gumball for 71 episodes and voiced Leonardo in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem and Chrome Alone 2. And luckily was only in one episode of The Good Place. Prior to Cantu, the voice of Leonardo was Jason Biggs, who's always on his best behavior. So, and I swear our podcast must be haunted by the RNC because it keeps coming up even when I'm not talking about political stuff. For some reason, the Republican National Convention comes up all the time. But during the 2012 Republican National Convention, Jason Biggs tweeted, quote, I'd totes dip a pinky or two in Paul Ryan's wife's bleached asshole. She obs bleaches her asshole. Hashtag RNC. Now, that's Jason Biggs, the previous voice of Leonardo. Unfortunately, Nickelodeon had their official TMNT account tied to Jason Biggs' personal account at the time.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, they had to issue an apology and everything. So, I mean, who would have thought that the star of American Pie and The Boy Who Cried Bitch would have turned out to be so raunchy? But let me tell you, conservatives were really mad about that. They were mad about how dirty and awful those tweets were, and they would hold on to that integrity for about 4 years and then nominate rapist and possible pedophile Donald, grab him by the pussy, losers and suckers, piggy bleeding out or wherever Trump, who likes to make fun of Ted Cruz's wife, which is kind of funny. So make obscene comments about Paul Ryan's wife, shame on you. Make obscene comments about Ted Cruz's wife, we elect you president, and Ted Cruz does campaigning for you. Because Ted Cruz is a little bitch. Anyway.
This is why I don't understand politics.
It's all nonsense. It really is.
Too many weird unspoken rules.
Well, yeah, it's the nuance, you know. You can make fun of Ted Cruz's wife; he'll put up with it. But Paul Ryan's wife, you don't make fun of Paul Ryan's wife. You make fun of Paul Ryan. Anyway, at least Jason Biggs' tweet was a compliment. All right, albeit a really creepy and idiotic compliment. Yeah. But if the role of voice acting Leonardo is cursed, it's a relatively new hex, because prior to Cantu and Biggs, the voice was done by in the 1980s, it was done by Cam Clark, who has been outspoken against the cruel religious zealotry practice known as conversion therapy, through which, under the guise of Christianity, prejudiced people believe they can make queer people straight. This is where people who are mad that their kids are queer send them to a camp to try to turn them straight, which is fucking insane. And it's absolutely cruel. It's absolutely disgusting practice. It leads to all sorts of awful psychological outcomes. And Cam Clark, who voiced Leonardo in the 80s, he is a conversion therapy survivor himself, and he is an outspoken person against that kind of thing. And I think that's awesome that he uses his voice to speak against it. In the 2000s, Leonardo's voice was done by Dan Green. Green starred in Yu-Gi-Oh! And recently, the current American government used Yu-Gi-Oh! Clips to promote its bogus war in Iran. Green took a stand against the government's use of his voice in Yu-Gi-Oh! And he reminded people that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not about division, it's about unity, and encouraged people to become who they are. And that Yu-Gi-Oh!'s late creator, Kazuki Takahashi, was very anti-war. Both Green and Clark are known good guys in the voice acting industry, and Nicholas Cantu could probably learn from their example.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, they are both like well-known good guys. Like that is not they're known among the industry as just being overall good people. Cam Clark, the one who the conversion therapy survivor, he started voice acting at a young age. But he didn't hit a big break until he was almost 30 and voiced a character that at least partially inspires my hair color to this day, actually. I kid you not. This character partially inspires me to dye my hair the color I do. And that character is Max Sterling, Ace Veritech pilot for the Robotech Defense Force. Robotech was an anime like back in the 80s. It's old. It's very, very old, but it's very good, and I love it. I've got a bunch of the DVDs. Anyway.
I have a feeling we're going to have to watch this after recording.
Some episodes. It's not one that you could watch straight through and just enjoy the whole thing. I would, but it's not something I'd make anybody else sit through. Anyway, Dan Green also started early, but had a major breakout role later in his career. So neither of them had explosive amounts of attention at such an early age like Cantu, which one would imagine has a major impact on a person's ability to self-reflect, which we'll come back to later. The more recent Leonardo, Jason Biggs, started acting when he was 5, but didn't exactly become famous until he was in American Pie playing a teenager at 21. That being said, Cantu could probably learn from Biggs as well, because shortly after that tweet, the Republican National Convention tweet, which they're probably still totally appalled by, Biggs made his first attempt to become sober. Now, he didn't succeed right away, but as of last October, he's been sober for 8 years.
Hey, good on him.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's also 8 years of no posts about Pinky banging Paul Ryan's wife's anus either. So there you go. The point is, Cantu could try sobriety. If he isn't sober already, it's probably a good idea that he stays away from drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
In the Uber video, Cantu claimed that he wasn't intoxicated and that he was only like that because of being neurodivergent, ADHD, autism, all that, as he put it. I'm a neurodivergent person as well, and I've never acted that way. Dream, the other influencer dude in that car, mentioned that he was also ADHD. So ADHD is not an excuse. And that's coming from me, a guy whose ADHD is freaking huge. I've got like ADH triple Ds, and I've never behaved like that. I cannot recall a time that any of my autistic friends acted that way either. I can, however, think of times when my friends acted that way while drunk. So there's that. Again, try sobriety. That's probably a good idea for him. Like, if you can't keep it under control, like, I'm not going to like get on my soapbox and say nobody should drink, but like, if you can't keep it under control, or if you embarrass yourself like that, maybe avoid it, or avoid having that much, you know?
Yeah. Just try it. Really, what's the harm in trying sobriety?
Yeah, give sobriety like a year and see if you like life better. You probably will. I just imagine.
I know we're not at that time of year. A lot of people do dry January, but who's to say you can't do dry second half of July?
Or sober October.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, there's sober October. Anyway, I think a likely culprit for the behavior, Cantu's behavior, is not just that he was intoxicated, but also in the time in which he started to get outsized attention. So going back to our other Leonardos, Green and Clark didn't come to limelight in a time of social media. Today, even the tiniest bit of fame can be turned into a perpetual entourage. In the age of independent internet entertainment, it's too easy for people with a molecule of notoriety to surround themselves with yes people so that they never have to be told they're wrong. Anyone who's been an influencer can attest to the fact that pick-me's will come out of the woodwork when you have some online popularity. Now, pick-me's are exactly what they sound like.
Mm-hmm.
They're people who will be extremely agreeable. They'll be overly enthusiastic about anything a creator creates, whether it's good or not. They're going to be very, very supportive of absolutely everything the creator does because they want that creator's attention. You know, they either have their own project that they want to promote or they're just really obsessed with that creator.
Yeah, kind of like a fanboy or fangirl type of.
Yeah, kind of a stan. But and a lot of times it's not even like a stan. It's like they have their own motivations, you know. But anyway, Cantu later claimed that his behavior in the Uber was due to having a manic episode, and that this episode led him to being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Now, delusions of grandeur is a symptom of BPD, and as tempting as it is to try to psychoanalyze his behavior in the video, you can only go as far as verifying whether or not certain actions exhibit symptoms. You cannot accurately determine a person's mental condition without a clinical setting, let alone just through a video clip in which he was probably intoxicated.
Yeah, from that short clip, you don't get the whole picture. It's just a short little clip, and to me, it sounded more like inflated ego.
Yeah. And I mean, he seemed very, which I mean, a delusion of grandeur could also be the fact that he's claiming that he's so vastly intelligent that everyone else will be left in history's dust. He said that Dream will be left in the dust in the sand, you know, as they say, the common phrase, the dust in the sand.
In the Sahara Desert, specifically.
In the Sahara Desert, and he's going to be erected in a statue of gold. Good Lord. Anyway, even if he didn't or doesn't actually have a BPD diagnosis, Cantu at least had two things working against his humility. That is, a public career that started at a very young age and internet notoriety. In some of the sources that I read, it was even claimed that he is better known among young people for his online content than he is for his voice acting. More people connect him with that. He has put a lot of his online work to rest. Some of the more frequent uploaded content and stuff that he does, so like his YouTube and stuff, like he doesn't make as much of that anymore. But he does continue to land some pretty decent roles as a voice actor. And cautionary tales of childhood fame date back far before the internet, of course. In fact, in 1919, Charlie Chaplin discovered a young talent by the name of Jackie Coogan, who, after turning 21, would have to sue his own mother for access to his earnings as an actor.
Ooh.
Yeah. Luckily, Cantu's parents were very hands-off with his career and his choices. Growing up, he did commercials, voice acting, and even stand-up comedy. 9 years ago, before most people knew who Cantu was, a post on his Facebook showcased some of his stand-up. One Facebooker commented that he did great and that she laughed so hard. And there's a response to that comment. Aline Fernandez responded with, "Thank you," smiley face. Wait, that's not right. The Facebooker, Amber, was saying that Nicholas was funny. Why did this Aline person say thank you?
Sounds like a momager type of thing.
So let me scroll up for 9 years and look at the top of this page. Yeah, so in the description of the Nicholas Cantu Facebook page, it reads, quote, "managed by mom."
Ah.
Yeah, so there you go. Aline Fernandez is Nicholas Cantu's mom, and she accidentally commented on using her main account. Whoops. So his parents, at least his mother, are not so hands off after all. Now, Facebook blows all of the ass, so I'm sure mistakenly commenting with the wrong account is understandable due to Facebook's obscenely stupid and intentionally misleading interface. But The point is, she wasn't just running Cantu's Facebook page, but even commenting as him, which I think is weird. Maybe it's a common thing, but I sure as hell wouldn't want anybody commenting as me. My mom shares way too much about me on Footbook, and I absolutely don't need her to start pretending to be me as well. That'd be a nightmare. That'd be a weird nightmare. But anyway, it's not as if Cantu's mother started inferring things about him at way too young of an age. I'm going to read his IMDb mini bio, okay?
Okay.
So, his mother noticed, according to this bio, it says that his mother noticed he was unusually alert and social at the age of, what's it say? At birth? Yeah, that's what it says, at birth. It says that at birth, she started noticing his alertness and social nature. He was unusually aware.
Wow, I'm surprised that she was unusually aware of everything happening on. If she was the one that gave birth to him,
Yeah, no.
Is she his biological mother? Like, was she there at the birth, or was she just
She
nearby?
noticed it. She noticed it. She must have been there at least. Like, so she noticed him.
I mean,
being,
it could have been a surrogacy type of thing, but
yeah. But it seems like she was there because it says on his IMDb mini profile that at birth, or his mini biography, at birth she noticed his alertness. So she was present there at least.
I get the feeling that's not where my mind would be if I were in that situation, but okay.
Yeah, I think you'd be like, can I still get the epidurals? But anyway, the IMDb bio explicitly reads that he articulated his desire to be an actor at the age of 7 and that he couldn't contain his desire to perform. And this is on IMDb. It's not like it's written by his mother on his Facebook page, run by his mother. It's on the Internet Movie Database in this bio that was written by Aline Fernandez. Jesus fucking Christ. So she runs his Facebook page. She wrote his bio on IMDb. Nicholas Cantu's mother is obviously very involved in his career. She has managed his career basically his entire life, running his Facebook, Instagram, moving him to Hollywood at the age of 10, getting him into commercials, and working to elevate his career as an actor.
I mean, that's a supportive parent, I suppose.
Yeah. And this kind of behavior can be seen as a mother's unwavering support, with her tirelessly trying to promote a career that her son said he wanted. This could be seen as a tremendous dedication to making sure that her kid has everything he could ever want or need. It could also be seen in a much different light, invoking thoughts of like the Jackson 5 or those beauty pageant moms. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. There's a line there, you know?
Yeah.
Parents are sometimes the source of both the rise and the tragedy surrounding young fame. And listeners, don't hold it against me if your radar picks up some hidden references to a certain crazy lucky criminal. From the bottom of my heart, I want to go on with the script. But if you're saying give me more, I won't do it this every time, but sometimes. All right, baby, one more time. After all, I was born to make you happy. In fact, I'm a slave for you. Oops, I did it again. Anyway, suing your parents. Anyway.
I just love all those references. I'm so excited right now.
Anyway, suing your parents like Coogan or becoming an egotistical thought vacuum is not the worst thing that can happen to a young person when they have attention. We've seen many stories about how young actors get addicted to drugs, burn all their bridges, and piddle on their careers. And, simply enough, influence is harmful to a young mind. I honestly believe that. In a large-scale MRI study on adolescents published by the journal Nature Neuroscience, changes in developmental curves in cortical gray matter were found to peak at the frontal and parietal lobe at about age 12, right around when Cantu's career was about to take off. For the entirety of his early teen years, Cantu was the voice of the title character in the very popular cartoon The Amazing World of Gumball, when this study shows peak development in the temporal lobe of the brain. Then, about age 20, he was the voice actor of Leonardo, when this study shows cortical gray matter still building in the occipital lobe. At this age, in his 20s, Cantu, in his early, when he was 20, he had a lot of fans and followers and probably subscribers and scrobbles. Having social influence or really power of any kind can lead to self-aggrandizing thoughts and behaviors such as Cantu's behavior in the Uber. Power, money, or influence can lead a person to believing they are superior in intelligence, morality, strength, or nearly every capability. We've seen that before. We've seen that lots of times.
Oh, yeah.
And this happens with like nepotism babies too. They are born with money and they grow up thinking that they're better because they have it. Like I must have earned this somehow, They get funneled into their nepotism job and then they think that their salary is something that they are earning when really it was handed to them. And they live on this pedestal. They never learn anything. They never grow, and they are so self-satisfied with their ego that they don't have to challenge themselves. And it's not good. It's not good for the brain. It's not good for the person. It's not good for society. I don't like it. And I think that a similar kind of thing when the brain is developing, if a kid gets a little too much attention too fast or ends up being praised a little too much, by everyone surrounding him, I think that could lead also to a similar kind of behavior that you see in a lot of these nepotism assholes. But I want to read this quote from the journal Communicative and Integrative Biology regarding power and morality. Quote, research indicates that powerful people are more likely to moralize, judge, and enforce strict moral standards on others while engaging in hypocritical or less strict moral behavior themselves. In other words, powerful people often act and speak like they are sitting on the right hand of God to others, especially subordinates, while engaging in even worse unethical behavior. I can't help but think of Cantu belittling everyone's intelligence while embellishing his own, basically accusing everyone of being stupid while acting stupid. Dream, the other influencer in the back seat of the car, said to Cantu, I think you're smart, but you're acting stupid. Nicholas Cantu is very young. At the time of recording this, he is 22 years old. He has plenty of young adult years to turn his image around and to turn himself around. The reason why I use Cantu as an example is because of the profane lack of humility happening in real time. Cantu made disparaging remarks toward queer people by appearing to use homosexuality as an insult. He didn't apologize for that or take that back. He just simply pointed out the fact that he's pansexual. Hey, Cantu, if you're listening, thanks, like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon. I want to talk to you as a fellow pansexual. Don't use sexuality as an insult. That just makes prejudiced people feel justified in their phobias surrounding queer people like us. So fucking apologize. Don't point out that you're pansexual. Just fucking apologize and take it back. Reportedly, Cantu didn't apologize to the driver of that Uber either. He said he apologized, which the driver later denied, and Cantu said that he had given the driver a very large tip for dealing with him. The driver also denied that. He verified that Dream was the one who gave him the tip. The kid from the back seat gave him the tip.
That sounds more likely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cantu didn't look like he was about to turn his attitude around that night, and following that night, he was denying that it ever happened before the video came out. He was accusing Dream of this and that. He was threatening to expose DMs of his or whatever. And so the behavior continued well after that night. So the idea that he suddenly had a change of heart and was nice to the Uber driver, that's bullshit. I don't believe that for a minute. But anyway, rather than offering an apology to Dream, Cantu claimed that the event never happened. Once the video went public, Cantu admitted it happened, still didn't apologize. He had a very public fight with Dream, leaking DMs, threatening to expose Dream, and ultimately saying that the only reason he behaved that way is the way he did in the Uber was because of a manic episode due to undiagnosed bipolar disorder. So, Did the disorder cause Cantu to continue to lash out and behave shamelessly during the long and embarrassing ongoing public fight? I don't know. I usually don't give half a shit about YouTube drama. I'm not that dumbass Keemstar, but the behavior is reflective of a person who has no humility. Everything has an excuse. I acted that way because of ADHD, autism, bipolar disorder. Everything gets a pass. I demeaned queerness, but it's okay, I'm pansexual. Everything's someone else's fault. Dream's lying. Dream's a bad guy. The Uber driver talked down to me. Everything gets lied about or swept under the rug. I never acted that way in the Uber. I wasn't intoxicated. I didn't try to physically hit Dream. And his fans are no help. Dream's actually a groomer. If Dream's a groomer, that's awful and should be addressed. But what does it have to do with Cantu's behavior? Dream let Cantu, a minor, get drunk. So Cantu intoxicating himself and making an ass of himself is Dream's fault. Dream is a few years older. Does that make him Cantu's father or babysitter? I don't think so. There's a lot of allegedly this and allegedly that, but ultimately this doubling down and refusing to admit fault comes from having too much too young. It comes from being surrounded by yes men and all that nonsense. Say the person's friend in this meme, rolling in that sweet $76 every month, gets their kid to actually go viral. Say the kid gets internet famous and ends up with crazy big following. What will or even can that parent do to keep their kid from developing their own delusions of grandeur through an overinflated ego and echo chambers full of pick-me's? What can you do?
I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Once a kid or even just a very young person is able to carve out a social nest online where they're popular just for being popular, where they're always told they're right, where they make a living just by sponging up attention, it's difficult for them to be incentivized to leave their cozy pocket of self-affirming nonsense. Luckily, Cantu has set aside his large volume online content creation, which might turn out to be good for him. But not every teen or 20-something is willing to do that. I'm not a parent myself, thank God, but I don't think $76 a month is worth the risk of exposing your kid to the larger world. And I know the 76 figure is a joke, but banking on your kid's popularity can backfire in so many ways. And in fact, we have another episode this season in which we will cover a much, much darker problem in that regard on another meme. Anyway, what do you think?
It is unfortunate to see these child stars grow up and not do so well. I mean, the example that I think of being a millennial is the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, in my opinion, they don't look well. They don't look healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening with them, but when you look back on when they got famous in their first roles, yeah, they were adorable. They did great in the shows.
Yeah.
But if you look at them now, something didn't work out right.
Yeah.
So.
There was at least a while there where they're real haggard and it appeared, obviously you don't want to make assumptions or whatever. And I think they've been to rehab or whatever, but or at least one of them did. But there's something very unhealthy that happens with that. Young stardom is awful. And I know there's this whole idea that it's not stardom, it's internet fame, I'm just exposing I just want my kid to go viral and we're going to make money on our little YouTube videos and whatever. That's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing, just a different medium,
Yeah.
It just goes through the internet rather than being broadcast on TV. They have award shows and they have conventions and they sign autographs and they do all this crap, and it's the same thing. It might be on a smaller scale, but it's the same thing and it has the same effect. And you got a lot of some awful things just knowing some of how gross this industry gets is that a lot of young women who want to move up, they end up screwing certain guys because they think it's going to get them somewhere. They hook up with people they would never do that to, and these guys use these women in that way. it's a gross industry, and it's unregulated in almost every way. Now, the so so I say that the industry is unregulated, but it's it is largely unregulated, but there are attempts right now going on to help regulate this industry a little bit more. And I'm going to try to find here. I have one on one of my sources here, which I apparently didn't write the part where I was intending. So there is something called Coogan's Law, or the Coogan Law. This was named for that actor, Jackie Coogan, that was discovered by Charlie Chaplin. And this law went into effect that would protect the so basically it's a law that took place in California, obviously, and it requires that 15% of all minors' earnings must be set aside in a blocked trust account, commonly known as a Coogan account, so that money can be retrieved later by the child actor. In Illinois, parents of working children in Illinois, they're required to open a block trust account, and they must provide at a minimum 15% of the gross earnings of the child performer into this account. And there are current attempts being made, or there are laws actually on the books for child influencers as well. They are very similar to this, and Illinois is one of those states. California, I think, has one of those in place as well. So there are laws, state laws that are created to protect child influencers, and then there's the Coogan's Law to protect child actors, at least when it comes to their earnings. So they'll at least have that.
15% seems fairly low.
It does. But that is money that can't be touched at all. If you think about that, that takes so that the child, when they are an adult, at least they have something to show for what they earned growing up. If it all ends up taken by the parents or whatever. Now, that being said, the SAG-AFTRA obviously is the SAG-AFTRA obviously is it's the union that protects actors, but and there is a SAG affiliate to help protect and like online creators and influencers. There's a type of grouping like that, but the problem is that it's not a legal entity, so it holds very little power, and also not everybody's required to buy into it because everyone's their own employer essentially.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really work like a union does. So I don't see where the teeth are in that, but it's a wild frontier, young influencers, and doesn't turn out good for a lot of them. It really doesn't. There was actually, I know a guy who made a very embarrassing video. I'm not going to go into detail that way. Nobody can pin who it is exactly, but this person ended up having a web redemption on that Tosh.0. Have you ever seen that show?
Heard of it.
Yeah, Daniel Tosh, comedian. He takes videos from the internet and does commentary over it. He does very little actual jokes. He mainly just says offensive things for laughs. I don't think Daniel Tosh is a very talented comedian, to be honest, but not that I haven't laughed pretty hard at some of the things that he said, because offensive things, I'm a sucker for that sometimes. But anyway, little tangent. But somebody I know ended up on that show to get a redemption done, right? He ends up on that show to get a redemption done, and suddenly he's got a big online following. And of course, because this guy's kind of a jackass, that following piddled out eventually. But while he was still riding high on that cloud, he asked another one of my friends if she wanted to be one of his groupies. Because it got into his head. He thought he was famous now, and that he was going to be riding this wave forever. But like, he doesn't make good content. He's not funny. He's not smart. I don't think he really even knows why he was on that show. Yeah, no, it's you can see how like it just corrupts something in the brain gets corrupted, when
That's a very gross way for someone to shoot their shot,
yeah,
It's
well,
like,
that's
if you were interested in them, like, you could have just said, hey, do you want to go on a date, not do you want to be one of my groupies.
See, I think that he just thought he had access to that, I think he thought he was a celebrity, and really he was on the show because he embarrassed himself, and he was on the show to have a redemption of some kind. And so it's just it's absurd. It's absurd that like you give certain people a lot of attention, and I think I don't want to say this happens to everybody, but it seems to happen so frequently that just something in the brain breaks, and they get this egotistical, full of themselves, thinking that they could say or do whatever they want, and just making asses of themselves, like that guy. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I think fame is bad for the brain. I do.
Oh yeah.
I really think so. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. If you want to help me do an experiment, if fame is bad for the brain, go ahead and rate us 5 stars on whatever you can rate us on, and donate to our Patreon. Share our podcast with your friends. Leave a good review for us. That way I can become famous and break whatever part of my brain will break when fame happens.
At least listeners will know you won't be a child star.
That's
so
right, yeah.
Your brain is
So
at
maybe,
least fully developed at this point.
Yeah,
but
maybe that part has already developed and it won't break. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
it'll be a science experiment, but we need your help. We need your likes to find out.
We need to find out. We need your Patreon dollars.
Do it for the science.
We do it for the science. That's right. That's what we always say here. Every episode, that's how we close. We say, thank you all so much for watching. Do it for the science.
Bye.